So, welcome back yet again to the next part of this discussion, talking about the Canadian Express Entry 2024, the ultimate guide. Now, like I said, this part is going to be a little bit challenging because there are lots of numbers we are going to discuss, the scoring factors and the associated points. So, please, I'll try as much as possible to, simplify it as much as I can. But feel free to, bring out your calculator or take a picture or something like that. But whatever that helps you to understand what I'm trying to explain now, please do it. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to this next discussion. Now, this is about the comprehensive ranking system known as the CRS. The comprehensive ranking system is a system that is used, to assess people when they move into the express entry pool. Now, the CRS ranks eligible candidates for immigration to Canada through the express entry under the following components. Now, you have the core human capital factors. You have the accompanying spouse or your common law factors. Now you have the skill transferability and factors that are related to provincial nomination that I've already mentioned before. If any province nominates you, that's the 600 solid points that you have there. Now, if you have an arranged employment in Canada, or you studied in Canada, or you have a sibling, or you can speak French, things like that will also help you to gain points because these are pathways that are point dependent. Now, how many points do you get for each of these factor? Now, I try to put this side by side. Now, the first column actually are those factors that I initially mentioned. Now, if you are coming with your spouse, let's start this way. If you are coming without your spouse, watch the middle column. These are your points against the core human capital factors, 500. Now, with accompanying spouse, the point drops to around 460 for you that is the principal applicant. While that point that you lost, your spouse will get it back. You get a point. So at the end of the day, is also for at the end of the day is also 500 points. So even if you are coming with your spouse or without, you have that 500 points as well. So far, your spouse can also supply the other things like the language test that will help you to also boost your score. Other scores remains the same. If you have a provincial nomination, 600. An arranged employment is 200 and things like that. If you have a sibling that you cannot show that this is my sibling, please add it in your application and that will give you 15 extra points. Remember, you need to have a proof as well. So that your sibling, if the person is in Canada already for sure, that is the only way to qualify. They can give you their permanent residency card or their driver's license as an evidence. You can also put a picture of where, a family picture from your family book to also show that actually this is my sibling who I'm also trying to claim points from. Okay, now the next six selection factors and their respective points are as follows. Like I said, the language skill now has a maximum of 28 points. Now, let's study this closely. If your first official language is English, let's use English for example, and you write your IELTS and your CLB level is 9 or higher, CLB level 8 as well will give you the points there. Under speaking for 9 is 6, listening is 6, reading is 6, writing is 6. when you total this, it will give you 24. Let's say you wrote your IELTS and you made 9 across all of them. You have to gain now 6 points across all of them. So out of this maximum 28 points that is accruing to language skills, you've already made 24, okay, by having CLB level of 9. Okay, now your second language, if any, will have the other remaining 4 points, making it what? 28. Does that make sense? Let me repeat. If I wrote IELTS and I scored 9 across speaking, listening, reading, and writing, on the CRS grading, my score for speaking, listening, reading, writing will be 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. But the language skill there is what? 28 points. So I need to get that extra point from my second language. If not, I will lose it. Does that make sense? Okay. So that your second language in this case is French. That's the only second language that is recognized, not your native language, right? So if I write the French test, for me to get that 4 points, my CLB should be at least 5. Okay, I hope this is clear about the language skills and the 28 maximum points available. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. So when you assess the education as well, um, I just got this table from the CRS table and the association points as well. Now, let's take for example, this first person has applied bachelor's degree. Okay, the points there is 21 for the federal skilled worker program. Now, if you move down, you see somebody else that has associate degree, that is 2-year degree, diploma or certificate from a program at a university, college, trade, or technical school. I'm reading from the second column, third row. Okay. Now the point is 19. So what does this tell us? It means that your degree are weighted. Weighted meaning that they have different amounts of points. Okay. So I'll try to post the link to this so you can go in there and check and assess your own education and how many points you are likely to get. But remember, you must include a Canadian qualification or an assessed equivalent. Okay, if your degree is outside of Canada, you must go and assess it. Okay, now, like I said, you can approach the West and they can assess it, and other agencies recognized by the IRCC for credential assessments. They can help you to do that. Okay, now the work experience, the maximum point you can gain there is 15. Okay, now remember, like I said, your work experience must be in line with your NOC's job description. So each of them, if your work experience is 1 year, it has its own point. Okay, now you can get points for the number of years you have spent doing full-time paid work, at least 15 hours if you are doing part-time, and 30 hours per week if you are doing full-time. Okay, and they must be in NOC 0, 1, 2, or 3. Please remember that. Now to get selection factors points, your work experience will count if it was done in Canada or abroad, and while you were studying as well, and maybe um, self-employed will also count as well. But remember, like I said, volunteerism, unpaid internships, they do not count. But as a student, you are working, you are being paid, that will also count as your work experience. Even your national youth service score for those from Nigeria, it also counts as a work experience. But you have to know how to, coin it correctly. That is where people like us can help you out. Okay. Now, what are these experiences and how many points do they have? If you have 1 year of experience, you are talking about 9 points, 2 to 3 years, 11, above 6 years, 15 points. Okay. Now, if we move a little bit away from this work experience and number of points that you can get, and we talk about the age. Like I told you before, if age is not on your side, you can go and take the French test to be able to get the associated 50 points from there. And I mean, like I initially said as well, the older you get, it's obvious from this table you are looking at now, the lower your points will drop. Now, if you are below 18, you are not considered. It should be 18 and above. And if you see, once you get to around 47 and older, your point also reverses to zero. So midway, the peak period there is those between 18 and 35. So if you are between 18 and 35, you earn the maximum points of 12 that is accrued to age. But there are ways you can as well balance this if age is no longer on site, maybe from your work experience, um, provincial nomination, that is a bombshell. If you can get that, then the second language which you talked about is the French language that can give you also 50 points. Okay, I hope this makes sense. All right. Now, thank you. Now, if we move on, I'll talk about the arranged employment in Canada, which is 10 maximum points. So if you're able to get an employer that will give you a paid full time as a minimum of 30 hours a week, for at least a year in NOC 0, 1, 2, or 3, if they can offer you an employment, then you get that 10 points as also, you know, available for you under the arranged employment in Canada. Now, IRCC must be convinced that you are able to do that job. Okay, so you can prove this based on your past working experiences. So, like I said, your work experience must tally with the NOC job description that you're talking about. Now, for those of us that need to be licensed, before they can work in Canada, you can as well start your licensing processes online outside Canada for most professions. I'm very sure about the engineers, okay? You can start processing your licenses even before coming into Canada. Okay, the number 6 point there, another point we should talk about is adaptability, which has a maximum of 10 points. Now, what is adaptability? The ease with which you and your spouse can easily integrate into the Canadian system. Now, if you are coming in with your partner or your spouse, okay, and you want to claim these 5 points from their language level, now it means that your spouse or your partner should go and write the test. They will go and write either the IELTS or the CELPIP or the French. But the thing is that their CLB is not too high. They are required to have at least four across speaking, listening, reading, and writing for you to gain these extra 5 points. Now, if you are married and age is not on your side, you believe that your score is low, maybe you have to bring in your spouse. Let them also, you know, do the IELTS, you gain the 5 points. Then also, if they have a degree as well, at least a post-secondary degree, they can get it assessed, and you can also gain the 5 points. Okay. Now, the issue of if you have a path to work, maybe in Canada, you're getting 10 points. If you have a relative as well, you are getting some points as well. If you have an arranged employment in Canada, maybe your spouse has an arranged employment in Canada, maybe an arranged employment in Canada, your spouse has an arranged employment in Canada, or a relative as well, that will also give you 5 points respectively. Okay, so this is a breakdown of all. I know it's a lot of numbers, okay, but you don't need to remember all this, but just have them at the back of your mind and how to, navigate and see what works for you. So talking about relatives, okay, the relative should actually be from 18 years and above, and they should be living in Canada, maybe a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. Okay, so a parent, a grandparent, a child, a grandchild, or your spouse, siblings, your relative, your uncle, you are related by blood or by marriage. You can prove that these people are related to you. You can gain these 5 points as well. Like I mentioned, they will give you certain documents like their permanent residence um card, their driver's license, things like that. Okay, their utility bills to help you, even a letter to support your application. So there are ways you can do these, and they won't be so difficult for you out there. Now, we are done with the numbers. Finally, we are done with the numbers, and let's try to wrap up these things. What are the documents you require for your profile? So I'll tell you the documents for your profile, and I'll tell you the documents for the application itself. Okay, now for your profile, you just simply need your passport, your language test, your education, your provincial nominee, sorry, your provincial nomination if you have any, maybe a written job offer from somebody in Canada who gave you a job, or certificates of qualification if you are in the trades, and most importantly, you need your proof of fund. 4 to 6 months of your what is it called? Your account statement showing that those figures, I should say, that I showed you before. Okay, so what are the documents for your application for permanent residency? The police certificate, which I told you to start working on right away. Some of them will take a long time. The earlier you start, remember you have 60 days to submit your application. Medical exams, you can do upfront medical exam if permitted. Okay, you have to show the proof of funds. You need the medical exam as well. Like I said, so what are the documents for your application for permanent residence proper? The police certificate, the medical exams, the proof of funds. Sometimes you can do upfront medicals to save time. You just need to check if it's still done. I did it during my own time. You have to show the proof of fund, your birth certificate, even that of your child. Anybody you're adding to your application, you must produce even their birth certificate. If you're using a representative, the form, um, common law union form required if you have declared your marital status as a common law, or is a common law, you're not officially married, but you stayed with this person for a long time. Okay, you could say maybe boyfriend or whatever they call that. It's a common law. Then you need your marriage certificate if you declared your status as married. You have a divorce certificate or legal separation agreement if you are divorced. If somebody you're adding is late, you must, put the death certificate as well. You have to declare everything. Now, adoption certificate as well is required if you're adopting a child as well. Okay, I know it's been a jolly long ride and long series as well, but we've successfully come to the end of this very long um edition, and I believe you've learned one or two things that will help you to make an informed decision and see that the Canada Express Entry 2024 is a reality for you. Now, to summarize all this, so first thing first is for you to know that you are assessed based on three minimum requirements, which is your skilled work experience, your language ability, and your education. Skilled work experience, language ability, and your education. Okay, so you should have at least 1 year of experience. Okay, and the language ability depending on where you're coming into. If it's the federal skill worker, IELTS 7, CLB band across all of them. Okay, now your education should have a diploma, certificate, or a degree, master's or PhD, and each of these they have their different points. Next step, create your profile. When you create your profile, you'll be assessed out of 100 points. If you get 67 and above, you'll be moved into the pool. When you get into the pool, a new set of rules, a new set of criteria are used to assess you over 1,200 points. Now, in this pool, others are there with their own points. Draws are done bi-weekly and you are invited to apply. Now, when you're invited to apply, you now supply those documents you used to create your profile. Okay, but like I said, when you are in the pool, you can do things to improve your score. Look for a job, maybe write a new test. If it's expiring, get your police clearance certificate as well. Okay, to get ready. These are the things you can do while in the pool to boost your points and to get ready as well. Okay, once you've applied and you've gotten an approval, voila, you plan your way to come into Canada as a permanent resident. But remember, like I said, come with as much money as possible. That is where the proof of fund comes into play. The amount of money you require in one region is not the same you require in another region. Okay, so do your due diligence to examine what you need to survive in any particular location. But like I said, you have to declare whenever you're coming in cash with more than $10,000. Now, I do hope that this long section has been worth your time and you've got all the necessary information needed, to explore the express entry pathway to permanent residency in Canada. However, I don't know what you're waiting for. If you haven't subscribed, subscription is free. Help us to subscribe. That will help you to be in the know whenever we post any new thing. Some of them are time bound. That will help us to grow as well. I wish you the best of luck and don't forget to reach out to us if you need help on the way. And as usual, I will see you in yet another one.